Florida Republican Congressman Greg Steube, his congressional district took a direct hit from Milton. Also, you had Helene and Debbie and a lot out there. When did you become aware of this story, this possibility?
When it broke in the last couple of days, it's just absolutely outrageous that the Biden administration, the FEMA administration would be administering FEMA aid in a political manner. We have seen the weaponization of the federal government under the Biden administration. I sit on the weaponization committee. We've seen it from the Department of Justice. And now FEMA. Disaster aid is typically something very, very bipartisan. And what I hope that the Oversight Committee will do is subpoena this supervisor that was fired, put her under oath, and ask her who was giving her this directive from Washington, D.C. Allegedly, there are text messages from, quote unquote, Washington, D.C. to the supervisor advising them to skip homes with Trump signs out in front of them. So I want to know how far up into the FEMA administration this goes, where else in the country this was happening. My district has been hit with 3 hurricanes in 3 months. I still have people with their personal belongings on the road. I still have people with debris on the road. And if this administration is skipping individuals based on their political ideology, everyone up the chain of command should be held responsible for that.
Give me an understanding of how you think this happened. Was it as simple as walking through a neighborhood and if you had a Trump sign in your yard or a DeSantis sign or some sort of Republican support, they go to the next house? Or
that's what they were being told.
Was it more nefarious than that? And do you have any evidence that Lake Placid, Florida is south of Orlando? It's near the town of Sebring, which is east of the district that you now represent. Do you think this was happening elsewhere?
I certainly, if it was happening in Lake Placid, it's happening all across the great state of Florida, probably happening in western North Carolina, probably happening all of the states that were hit by Hurricane Helene. And that's what we in Congress need to get to the bottom of. The FEMA administration wants to say this was an isolated incident, but there is alleged text messages from Washington, D.C. to the supervisor advising them and directing them to do this. So somebody higher up within FEMA was advising the people on the ground to do this. So if it was happening in Lake Placid, I can guarantee you it was happening in other places all across the great state of Florida and the country. And the Oversight Committee needs to get to the bottom of this. And the very first stop would be the person who was fired, put them under oath, and ask them who in their chain of command was directing her to do this.
That'd be some interesting testimony. You touched on this a moment ago. Ron DeSantis, your governor, sent this out on X. The blatant weaponization of government by partisan activists in the federal bureaucracy is yet another reason why the Biden-Harris administration is in its final days. Did you reflect on that at all, that last point there, coming off this election?
Well, that's the other great thing about that. Yeah, that's the great thing about these election results is Donald Trump's going to be president in a short couple of months, and we will get to the bottom of it because somebody in his administration will take over FEMA and will do its own investigation after the Biden-Harris administration is out of there. So we'll get the answers at some point, but I want to know how high up these decisions went, and every single person in that chain of command that was involved and or responsible for directing people who work for FEMA to not give FEMA aid to Trump supporters is absolutely atrocious.
Well, it appears FEMA did the right thing and terminated this individual. Had they not, we may never know the truth about it. Greg Steube, we'll see what happens with hearings. You mentioned it many times. We'll see whether or not that individual is called to testify. That might be must-see TV. Thank you, sir, for your time today.
Good to see you both.